Here today set on our final in this case. We are conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and consent and agreement of the parties. We are live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record today. All right, we will go ahead and take announcements.
Todd Albee on behalf of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. I'm present, ready to proceed, Your Honor.
T.D. Hammonds on behalf of Maria Velasquez, ready to proceed, Judge. I've been texting her, Judge. She was going to try to join us by audio, I believe.
She's present on video and audio.
All right, thank you. We're ready to proceed.
Brooks Barfield, attorney for Alejandro Rodarte. I don't believe my client is in the waiting room or is present at this particular time. We have sent him information concerning the hearing. As of yet, we have heard nothing back from him in those regards. Therefore, I'm compelled to request a motion for continuance as my client's not present in regards to this case, Your Honor.
Jeff,
I'm sorry, Jeff. My understanding is a paternity test was supposed to take place in October, as well. And I may have missed it, but I didn't see any results, and I may have missed it in all the mail I get. So anyway, with that said, that's where I'm at. Sorry, Jeff.
no problem. Jeff
Thank
Hill
you.
on behalf of Gabriel Aguilera. He is not present, Judge, by his own choice. He has executed an affidavit of or relinquishment, but I'm here and ready to go.
Jay Michelson on behalf of the unknown father. I'm present and ready.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of the boys.
All right, and back to Mr. Barfield. Your client, I think, has been given two opportunities to at least to appear for genetic testing, and he did not appear for either of those appointments. So, even though he requested it, he failed to appear for that on at least two occasions. What is Mr. Abbey? How was he served?
Judge, I think he was actually served personally, and then we couldn't get a return back, so we served him by publication. I'll have Miss Kirksey verify that when I have her testify.
All right. Okay. Then who's our first witness today?
Your Honor, just for purposes of the record, could I get a ruling on my motion?
Oh, my apologies. Okay. My apologies, Mr. Barfield. Before I rule on it, then, Mr. Abbey, I do want to confirm how his client was served for the record.
Michaela, can you confirm that for me?
I have on my records that he has not been served, that he was unable to be located.
Gail, did we serve him by publication?
Yes, if you give me a minute, I'll look the date up.
Thank you.
I'm looking as well. So obviously we appointed Mr. Barfield to represent him, so it's probably was by substituted service. I see where it was issued, October 17th. We appointed Mr. Barfield the same day.
Judge Baker, ma'am, the order for substitute service was signed by you on June 29th of 2023.
All right, then I did sign the order for substituted service by posting or other means back in June of 2023. We subsequently appointed Mr. Barfield pursuant to that. So, okay, Mr. Barfield, I'm going to deny the motion for continuance. All right, then Mr. Alley.
Thank you.
First witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Miss Alexis Valenzuela.
Judge, you're frozen.
I'm glad it's her and not me.
Apologies, my internet just completely dropped me off. So,
You swore her in, Judge, and that's the last thing that happened.
Yeah, that's all. And I really have actually didn't even hear her answer, but I'm assuming she said yes, correct?
Yes.
All right. Okay, Mr. Abbey, you can proceed. And if I drop off again, I may have to stop and reboot some things. I don't know. We'll see what's going on.
Thank you, Judge. Before I elicit any testimony, I have 11 exhibits that have previously been provided to all the attorneys, and I would ask to be able to pre-admit those if at this time, if the court allows. Petitioner's Exhibit 1, Your Honor, is a certified copy of the petition to participate with an including affidavit that was filed on October the 18th of 2022.
All right, this is going to be your Exhibit 1?
Correct.
Because I don't think they're marked, are they?
I don't think we've marked them, Your Honor. We provided them, but I don't think I've marked them.
All right. So the petition for order for required participation in family preservation services is being offered as Petitioner's Exhibit 1. Any objection?
No, Judge.
Nope.
No.
No objection. I don't anticipate that I will have an objection, but I don't see an email with these, but I probably received them.
Stacey, I'm pretty sure that we sent it to you. It's been several weeks ago.
Okay, I'll pull it up, but I've got no objection.
Okay.
All right. So Petitioner's Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Petitioner's Exhibit 2, Your Honor, would be a certified copy of the order to participate dated December 1st of 2022. Petitioner's Exhibit 3, Your Honor, would be a certified copy of the petition for protection filed on December 12th of 2022. Petitioner's Exhibit 4, Your Honor, would be a certified copy of the temporary order that was made by this court on January 11th of 2023. Petitioner's Exhibit 5, we would offer would be a certified copy of the petition for protection that was filed on January the 13th of 2023, Your Honor. Petitioner's 6, Your Honor, we would offer a certified copy of the temporary order that allowed the children to be placed in the care of or remain in the care of the Texas Department of Family Protective Services dated January 31st of 2023. Your Honor, Petitioner's Exhibit 7, we would offer would be the certified copy of the status order dated March 9th of 2023. Petitioner's Exhibit 8, Your Honor, would be the family plan of service for Miss Maria Velasquez. Your Honor, Petitioner's Exhibit 9 would be the family plan of service for Alejandro Rodarte. And then finally, Your Honor, I said 11, but I'm going to limit it to just 10. Would the Petitioner's Exhibit 10 would be the business records affidavit, including for the drug screens taken by Miss Velasquez for the department. And that's been on file for more than 10 days. Then I would call Miss Alexis Valenzuela, who's just already been sworn. And in that capacity, have you had or been asked to begin an investigation concerning the family of Maria Velasquez?
Yes.
When was the first time that you were asked to begin an investigation on this family?
That would have been July 30th, and that was 2022.
And what were the allegations in that report that asked you to begin your investigation?
The allegations that I received, Sabriel was in the emergency room. He was lethargic, and he had been admitted to the ER 2 visits prior to this one on July 30th. And so I was called out to make contact with the family at the hospital.
Did you go to the hospital and make contact?
I did.
And what did you and Miss Velasquez discuss at that time?
Initially, we talked about how Sabriel was admitted in the first place, and why we got our report. She did try to leave the hospital before I was able to speak with her about the allegations. And so when we started speaking about the allegations, she did tell me that Sabriel had taken some of her pills when she stepped out of the room to use the restroom. And so she was upset at that point because the hospital did not pump his stomach. And so then that was 2 weeks before. And then she was admitted again on the 30th because he was throwing up. So we figured that out. We didn't end up doing a safety plan because Sabriel's drug screen was negative.
So her concern was that he had taken some pills a couple weeks prior to your report beginning in July.
Yes.
All right. Did you have opportunity, or did you have additional engagements with Miss Velasquez?
I did a couple days after I saw them at the emergency room. Yes.
When was this next engagement with her?
That would have been August 1st, so the next day.
And what was the allegations at that time, or what were you doing on that day?
I did a follow-up visit at the house. I took a lockbox out to Miss Velasquez so that way we could lock up all the medications to hopefully prevent the kiddos from getting into her medication.
So you were taking steps to help protect these children?
Yes.
All right. Were you asked to do further investigations on Miss Velasquez and her children?
Yes.
And when was that?
I followed up August 16th with AISD to ensure the kids were getting services through the school. I had tried to work with the homeless liaison to help with transportation for the kiddos because they lived within a certain mileage of the schools. They didn't qualify. I also reached out to their pediatrician to follow up on their medical appointments as well.
Okay. And at that point in time, mid-August, did you determine that the department needed to file any type of services or any petitions against with Miss Velasquez?
That would have been in September. We did go out and do a family-based assessment with Maria. Initially, she was in agreement to work services, and then after the assessment, she was no longer in agreement. So at that point, we did decide to file a petition.
So a petition was filed on October or about October the 18th of 2022. Prior to that, from August of 16th until October 18th, did you have continued contact with Miss Velasquez?
I believe so, yes.
What was her general demeanor and cooperation with you?
She would let me in the house whenever I went by. She allowed me to see the kids. She allowed me in the home with the family-based worker to speak with her. I had no issues with her at that point whenever I had my investigation open getting into the house.
In October, the court ordered that Miss Velasquez work services. Was that when you closed your case on Miss Velasquez?
Yes. So when she was court ordered to work services, the investigation closed.
What were, with your knowledge, what were the grounds for the reasons for the court ordering services in October?
To my knowledge, Ms. Velasquez does have extensive history with the department, and we needed to ensure that that both children were getting services that they needed. That's my knowledge of that.
Did you believe that there was a continuing danger at that time that if services were not provided, that the children were continuing danger for the children and services were not provided?
Yes, after speaking with the family-based worker, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Valenzuela. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Hammonds.
Ms. Valenzuela, were you ever able to determine what type of medication Ms. Velasquez was on?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
Okay, and she didn't volunteer that?
I do not think I asked her for that, and I might have, but I don't know that I see it in my affidavit.
When you went to visit her at the home, do you recall where that apartment was?
The home?
Yes.
I don't have the exact address, but I can look for you. It was the address that I had that I was making contact with her at.
Do you recall, was that a rental home or was that an apartment?
That's a home.
Okay. Did Ms. Velasquez indicate whether or not she was buying or renting that home?
Not that I recall.
Anybody else in the home other than her and the two boys?
No, sir.
And do you recall Ms. Velasquez having a means of transportation at that point?
No, she didn't.
When you met with her at the hospital in the emergency room, were there other family members with her? Had somebody transported her to the hospital?
I believe they were transported by ambulance, if I remember correctly, but when I met with her in the emergency room, there was no family there with her.
Did you do any kind of I don't know, kind of an intake sheet on her, just asking her if there were other family members in town that she knew?
She does have family that lives in town, yes, and I believe that's her mother.
You mentioned obviously she's had some other issues with the department. Are you aware of adult children that she has here in town that she stays in contact with?
At that point in the investigation, no, I was not aware.
Okay, did you learn anything later?
No, sir.
When you went to the school to talk to the boys or talk to the counselor, I mean, did the boys appear to be in good health and dressed appropriately, things of that nature?
Yes.
Did you talk to the boys at all?
I attempted to talk to the boys and they would not talk.
I mean, literally, they told you, we do not want to talk to you?
I tried to get him to talk to me. I believe that was Zarel. All he was able to report to me that he was doing good. And when I asked him other questions, he didn't say anything.
All right, and he was first or second grade?
That sounds about right. He was at Bivens Elementary.
I have nothing further, Judge.
All right, Mr. Barfield?
Thank you, Judge. Did you have any dealings with Mr. Rodarte?
I did not.
Okay. Do you have any indication or of what his relationship in regards to this case with the children might be?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. And did you have any information or anything that would indicate he's the father of either of these children?
I believe that was history that we looked at. And then I do believe I tried to make an attempt and was unsuccessful.
Okay. Obviously, you have not had contact with Mr. Rodarte. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And as we sit here today, we just don't know with any definitive evidence that he's the father of either of these children. Is that also accurate?
That's accurate.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Hill?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Michelson?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Zavala?
Ms. Valenzuela, you mentioned that you were also trying to work with the school about some issues. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I believe you mentioned that she was too close to the school to be able to for the kids to ride the bus?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were working with the school. Why? Was there a problem with getting Zoriel to school?
Yes, they were having he was having attendance issues, and so that was one of the reasons I reached out to the homeless liaison in the first place to see if he qualified for bus services. But when they live too close to the school, they don't qualify. And so I tried to work with mom about getting him tested for any kind of developmental issues that were going on, so that way he could hopefully qualify for the special education bus.
Right. And at that time, was there some thought that Zoriel might be on the autism spectrum?
Yes.
Okay. Is that just because of his reactions when you or the school personnel would interact with him?
Yes, and not only that, I believe that was also told to me by Miss Velasquez. There was a concern there, and I believe the school had tried to test him, but I don't know what those results were.
You weren't around long enough in the case to hear about any of those results of the testing. Is that correct?
Right.
During the time that you were involved, did getting Zoriel to school, did that remain an issue?
I believe so, yes.
Did mother report issues with Zoriel's behavior in terms of going to school, that he just simply wouldn't go?
No, not that I remember.
Okay. I pass the witness.
All right. And Mr. Alley?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Valenzuela, just for the record, when you were doing your investigation, Zoriel was 6 and Zabriel was 3. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
And did you have conversations with Ms. Velasquez, and did she have any unusual responses or discussions with you about what her children were doing and how she was reacting with her children?
As far as their behavior goes, the first contact I had with mom or with Miss Velasquez and the kids at the house, they were both rowdy. And Miss Velasquez was trying to redirect them. She'd made several attempts to do that. Besides that contact, I cannot recall a time where they were being rowdy in the house and Miss Velasquez was having to ask them to stop what they were doing.
Do you recall Ms. Velasquez telling you that she thought that they were trying to be that they were out to get her in some form or fashion?
I believe that was the visit on September 8th when the family-based worker was present and she was doing her assessment.
And I'll pass the witness, Your
Okay. Mr. Hammonds, anything further?
I'm sorry, Ms. Velasquez, I guess I might have misunderstood that question. That the department was out to get Ms. Velasquez?
Okay, let me clear up for the record. The witness is Ms. Valenzuela.
I'm sorry, Judge, Ms. Valenzuela.
No, it's okay. I just wanted the record to be clear.
But Ms. Velasquez made some comment that she felt like the department was out to get her.
Is that a question? Is that a question for me?
Yes.
Yes, she did after the family-based assessment. Yes, make a comment about the department trying to incriminate her. Yes.
Okay. Initially, though, the first few months you were talking to Ms. Velasquez, it was your goal that the department direct her to some services that could help her, correct?
Yes.
And you did not feel the need at that point to file a petition?
That's correct, because initially she was in agreement to work services voluntarily.
All right. All right. But that relationship or the cooperation deteriorated up until October.
Yes, after the family-based assessment.
Okay. Were you the worker then that was, attempting to get her to cooperate, or was there somebody else involved?
That was the family-based worker. She's the one that does the assessment whenever we're trying to get parents to work services.
Okay. And who is that, please?
That was Elaine Lucero.
Okay. I mean, would you say Elaine was working closer with Ms. Velasquez than you were at that time?
Yes.
I have nothing further, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Warfield?
No questions.
All right. And Mr. Hill, any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Zavala?
No further questions.
All right. Anything further of this witness, Mr. Abbey?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then. Is Ms. Valenzuela free to leave us at this time? Anybody wish to retain her?
No objection.
No objection, Judge.
No objection.
All right, Ms. Valenzuela, thank you very much for your time today. You're free to go.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Abbey, who's your next witness?
Miss Elaine Lucero, Your Honor. Miss Lucero, you're a FBS specialist working with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services.
Yes, sir.
What does FBS mean?
It means family-based safety services specialist. Kind of long.
And what role does an FBSS specialist play with parents and children?
The cases that are investigated where children are left in the home, we're asked to go out, do an assessment with the family and try to get them involved in some services to keep their family intact.
In the fall of 2022, those services were typically voluntary by the parent, correct?
Yes.
In the fall of 2022, did you begin or attempt to do an assessment on Maria Velasquez and her children, Zorio Rodarte and Xavier Aguilera?
Yes, I did.
When did you first have contact with Ms. Velasquez?
On September the 8th.
And how did that assessment go?
It actually went really good. We spent quite a bit of time talking, and she agreed to whatever services we had recommended for her.
And what services did you recommend for Ms. Velasquez?
At that time, we had talked about some counseling. We explained that there would probably be some drug treatment classes. We were going to be asking for her to submit to some drug tests at random. And then we also asked her to do some parenting classes. I hadn't actually gotten the family plan together, but when we done the assessment, we had kind of talked about what we would want for her to work on.
Did Ms. Velasquez change in the way she was reacting towards you and in the family plan of service after that assessment was done?
Yes, actually, immediately after I left her house, went back to the office, I received a phone call from the investigator saying that she had changed her mind. She didn't want to work any services with the department.
Did you have any up until October, strike that, from that date in September until October of 18th of 2022, did you have other contact with Ms. Velasquez?
I don't believe I did. I think at that point the investigator took over and they tried to they filed a report for TFF.
All right.
I tried. There was several contacts that I had attempted, the 18th, the 19th, and the 21st. And then on the 21st, I saw the kids at school.
And the 18th, 19th, and the 21st of what month?
Of November.
All right. Now, the court ordered that services were to be worked in, a petition was filed for services to be worked in October. And a month into that, after that, we still hadn't had an order, but you were attempting to get your ducks in a row. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you have other contact with Ms. Velasquez?
No, not until we went back to court.
Did you attempt to have contact with Ms. Velasquez?
Yes.
What was her response when you were attempting to contact her?
She did not want to have any contact at that time. The investigator, Alexis, was still involved, and so that was primarily who she was having contact with.
So the only contact prior to December 1st of 2022 that you had with Ms. Velasquez is when you did this assessment.
Yes, I did the assessment, and then once we went to court and the TFF case was open, I did begin to try to start to have contact with her again.
Okay, so let me back up. The assessment was on what date?
The assessment was done on September the 8th.
And you had a long conversation with her on that day.
Yes.
Did she have any did she say anything on that day that caused you concerns about what she thought her kids were doing to her?
Not on that day, no.
Okay. So, and then the next time that you had contact with Ms. Velasquez was after there was a court order?
Yes, that's correct.
And my records show that court order was in December, or the first part of December of 2022. Is that what your records show?
What I'm looking at is that there was a TFF case open November the 17th.
Okay. And a TFF case is a little bit different than a regular order to participate. Is that correct?
Yes.
TFF is kind of a way that we have to try to keep children in a home when there's some danger in the home, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And in October and November of 2022, TFF cases were pretty new and the procedures were pretty new to all of us. Would you agree with me?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So you began trying to have some contact with Miss Velasquez in mid-November of 2022.
Yes.
Was she cooperative with you?
I was able to go out and visit with her on the November the 22nd. And kind of explain to her like what the TFF case looked like and that there was going to be another worker coming out to make contact with her, and how often they would be coming out, a couple of times a week, just so that she was aware of what things were going to look like.
And what was her responses to you when you talked with her about these things?
She felt like the department wasn't being honest about her drug screen. I guess she had provided a drug screen previously that was positive. She, at that time, is whenever she's made comments about the kids saying things, it was really Zabriel that she said that he was manipulative, and that she felt like he wanted to get her in trouble and get her thrown into jail. At that time, that was concerning to me just because, he's pretty small, but I feel like it was maybe her way of trying to explain away why we were involved in the first place.
Did you ask Miss Velasquez at any time to drug screen for you in any form or fashion?
Yes, during my involvement with her, yes, multiple times.
And did she ever drug screen for you?
She did not. She drug screened. She gave me an oral swab, but that was it. That was done on December the 5th. But outside of that, she never would go when I would ask her to go.
And what were the results of the December 5th drug screen?
It was positive.
I'm going to object, Judge. Judge. Proper predicate. I don't know what kind of experience this woman has.
Judge, the drug screens are in through the BRA business records affidavit, so I was just following up on that.
I don't know that oral drug screen results are in that packet, Judge.
All right, let's be clear about, Mr. Alley, let's be clear about what test we're talking about and whether or not they are contained in that and covered by that business records affidavit.
Yes, Your Honor. And if you give me just a minute, I'll look. But I thought I looked last night, but I'll check.
And I'll just state that, as most of you know, it is the position of this court that the department representatives can certainly just testify as to what they can read in the report, but not necessarily interpret or certainly testify as an expert about any of that. The report speaks for itself.
I understand, Judge.
Judge, the oral drug screen from 12/5 of 2022, which is what she just testified to, is a part of the business records affidavit that was previously admitted.
I do see that, Judge. If that's the one he's referring to, I'll withdraw my objection.
All right, so that's in Exhibit 10.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And it's about 10 pages in, Judge.
All right, so let's just then, Ms. Lucero, you can go ahead and finish answering that question.
Okay. Yeah, I had completed an oral swab with her on December the 5th, which was positive for methamphetamines and amphetamines.
Right. And was it soon thereafter that you believed that it was time to ask the court to have the children removed from Ms. Velasquez?
Yes, that's correct.
What were the reasons behind you asking that the children be removed?
Well, there was concerns for continued substance abuse on her part. There had already been a positive hair follicle prior to that. On top of that, she wasn't cooperative with any of our services. She wasn't meeting with the TFF worker when they were trying to go out and meet with her. And I had spoken to her about relatives to see if there was a possible, placement for the kids, something of that nature. And the only person that she had indicated at that time was her mom, but she said they didn't have a good relationship at that time, and so she wasn't able to give me anybody at that time for possible placement.
Did you feel that the children were in danger at that time?
Yes.
Now, my recollection is that we had a hearing right after the first of the year of 2023. Do you remember that hearing?
Yes.
And the court at that time ordered that we return the children to Miss Velasquez, even though we had had possession for a couple of weeks, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you attempt to return the children to Miss Velasquez after that court hearing?
It was actually Lisa Godsey. She works for St. Francis. She had went out and tried to return them, and I tried to assist later on that evening as well.
Did you go back into Miss Velasquez's house sometime after January the 11th of 2023?
Yes.
And did you find anything in that house that was concerning to you?
Yes. Whenever I arrived at the house, that was during the second time we sent the kids back. There was a bag of a crystallized white substance that was on the table in the home, and that was on January the 12th, after the second time we had been asked to take the kids home.
And is it after that home visit that you felt like it was necessary for us to file an additional request to have the children removed from Miss Velasquez's home?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you feel like the environment that Miss Velasquez had those children in with the drugs involved was endangering to the children?
Yes, sir.
Did Miss Velasquez know that you were returning the children on the 12th when you went back into the house?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Miss Lucero. I will pass witness.
All right, Mr. Himmons.
Miss Lucero, in your contact with Miss Velasquez, did you ever look at any identification that she had, driver's license, social security card, anything like that?
Not that I can remember like offhand.
All right. Do you have this group of drug tests in front of you that have been admitted by business record affidavit?
I don't think I have the actual drug screens, but I do have my affidavits that document the drug test results.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm interested is because I'm looking at the December the 5th oral swab that you took. Your name is on here as having taken that at 2:50 p.m. Down below, Miss Velasquez signs it. She signs it Maria Velasquez, and then she puts O-R-O-N-A is what it looks like to me, or Rona. I mean, did she ever use that name with you?
No.
Okay. And in your paperwork that you had her fill out, the assessment and all of that, do you ever recall seeing that last name on any of your paperwork?
It wasn't a name that I had used on any of the documents that I had inputted myself. Maybe she had, but it wasn't something that I used for like the family plan or anything.
Okay. And when you would go visit her, was it at this 407? Okay. And did she indicate to you she was renting that house?
She was receiving HUD at the time for that home. That's what she had indicated.
And did you ever see her driving a vehicle?
Yes.
And what was your understanding of the owner of that vehicle?
From my understanding, it was hers. She had told me it had been broken down when I first got involved with the family, and she had someone that helped her fix it, helped her financially to be able to fix it. And so from my understanding, it was her vehicle. And she said.
And during this time, was she staying at home and taking care of Xabriel?
Yes.
She was receiving food stamps. Is that your understanding? All right. Anybody else living in the home with her?
Later in the case, towards the end, yes.
Okay, who was there?
Whenever we had returned the children, her brother Vicente Velasquez was in the home. And when I looked through the closets, he did have quite a bit of his belongings in the house.
Do you recall him being younger or older than her?
I believe he was her younger brother.
Did the department have any concerns about that at that time?
Yes, because that's when we had returned the children home on the 12th, and he was laying on the couch. He had picked up the drugs from the table, and she gave him her car keys and told him for him to take her car and to leave. And so at that point, yes, we did have concerns.
Okay, let's talk about that term you just used. You said he picked up the drugs. You don't know what was in that baggie, do you?
I mean, I didn't test it myself, no.
Okay, and what experience do you have in observing methamphetamine, cocaine, LSD, things like that?
Just through the department and working with families, seeing
Okay.
those things, but I can't say that I tested it. I mean, he got up and left with it, so.
Well, I was going to say, have you ever taken any kind of training like a narcotics officer takes to observe different types of drugs by sight?
There was a couple of trainings that we have taken with the police department out of Lubbock. So
Okay, and you're saying this was a crystalline-like substance?
yes,
I mean, was it 2-3 fingernails worth, or can you give me an idea of how much was in the baggie?
no, I mean that I wouldn't know. I mean, it wasn't a small amount. I can say that it was clear as soon as we walked into the home. We could see that it was like probably about 3 inches of a cutoff of a sandwich bag.
Did you see any paraphernalia in the home? Did you see any paraphernalia in the home? Any pipes or cigarette lighters, anything like that?
Yes, there was a cigarette lighter on the table next to it. And then there was, I don't remember if it was a pipe or if it was a flashlight. It was just, there was stuff sitting on the table right there in the living room that would be an access of the kids.
Okay, and how did that, I guess, event end up? What did you do with the children that day?
We contacted our supervisor to explain to her what was going on in the home. There was another worker with me at the time. We were asked to go ahead and have Miss Velasquez go and drug screen with us immediately. So we physically, put car seats we already had the car seats in the car, physically took her to the drug screen facility and she drug screened.
Okay. On December 12th, is that the day we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Judge, I think that it's January 12th, not December 12th.
January 12th.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. I'm even looking at a report from January 11th that indicates she was negative. That was the day before you were going to take the children, correct? You had her drug screen.
No. On January 11th, there was a hearing that took place.
All right, I'm looking at January 9th then, I guess. It says date specimen collected January 9th. Date results were transmitted January the 11th. They're all negative. All right, so at that hearing, there was evidence that she was negative and the children were ordered returned. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
All right, then on January 12th, there is a specimen collected. Those results are not returned until January 20th, but that screen does indicate she was positive. Is that your recollection?
Yes.
All right. Then, did you have any further involvement with Ms. Velasquez as this case proceeded?
Yes, following the positive drug screen, well, actually the day of when we went to take the kids back, we filed again for removal of the children on January the 12th.
Okay, and then did you remain in the case until it was transferred to another caseworker, or how did that happen?
Yes, I remained on the case until the kids were re-removed on January the 17th. Following that,
All right.
yeah.
All right. And then from January 17th on, you've had no contact with Miss Velasquez?
No.
All right. I have nothing further, Judge.
All right. Okay, Mr. Barfield.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, what contact have you had with Alejandro Rodarte?
I have not had any contact with him during my case. When I'd searched for him, I had seen on there was a ICE hold, I guess, for him. He was in a detention center somewhere, and he was on an ICE hold, but I've never had any contact with him.
Okay. And do you have any evidence or information that he's the father of either of these two children?
Other than what Ms. Velasquez has told me, no.
Okay. Now, before the hearing started, DNA testing had been requested by Mr. Rodarte, but that was not able to be completed. He didn't show up. So as we sit here today, we do not know if he's the father of either of these children. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming that he has not made any attempt to contact you within the last 60 days to your knowledge?
No.
Okay. What, if any, information would you have that he did anything to necessitate the removal of either of the children?
None. I mean, I had no contact with him, no verbal contact, didn't know where he was at. So,
okay. Based upon the work you did in this case, do you know whether or not Mr. Rodarte even knew anyone was alleging he was the father of any children?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. But he would have definitely not done anything to necessitate the removal based on the information that you have in this particular case. He wasn't even where the children were. Is that correct?
No, sir, not that I know of.
Okay. And to your knowledge, he had no relationship with the children or any child involved in this case?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Now, do you recall when Mom gave you his name as being the potential father, or gave the department or St. Francis that information?
I believe that information was provided during my initial assessment. But the way it was explained to me is that there was no contact there, because I just explained we needed names for parents for the, both fathers.
And during that meeting, and I'm not so much during that meeting, was there any statements made that she had even advised him that she had a child, or that he was potential father of a child?
Not that I recollect.
Okay. And you don't recall any other conversations with her regarding parentage involving my client, Mr. Rodarte? I'm sorry.
Not until the removal, but there again, like the information I was given was that he was on an ICE hold.
Okay. All right. Were you ever able to determine where he may have been on any potential detention facility?
South Texas. That's it. There wasn't any exact.
Okay. Do you know, as we sit here today, whether he has been deported or not?
I do not know.
Do you know, as we sit here today, of his exact whereabouts?
I do not.
As we sit here today, do you have any contact information that you've been able to use to make contact with him?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Two.
No questions, ma'am.
All right, and Mr. Michelson?
Thank you. Ms. Lucero, during your assessment with Ms. Velasquez, did you learn of any information of potential fathers other than the fathers that Ms. Velasquez identified?
No, just Alejandro Rodarte and Gabriel Aguilera.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Sabella?
Ms. Lucero, during the time that you were involved with Mom, it's my understanding from your testimony that there were 3 separate positive drug tests for meth. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. One at the very beginning of the case, December 5th, and one January 12th.
Yes, that's correct.
One of the reasons that an investigation began in the first place for these kids was Zabriel taking some pills.
We lost somebody. May have been Mom.
One of the reasons an investigation was started was that Zabriel had taken some pills that he had found. Is that correct?
Yes.
I want to talk about that bag you found on a table. What kind of table was it?
It was a coffee table.
What height would it be compared to Zabriel?
It would be like at his hips, standing next to it.
This was on January 12th?
Yes.
This was an appointment that was scheduled to return the kids.
Yes, ma'am.
She knew you were coming. She knew the kids would be there.
Yes, ma'am.
And in fact, y'all had tried to return them previously, and she wasn't there.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's why we had to make a specific schedule as to when to bring them back.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether it was actual drugs in that baggie or not, is that something that Zabriel should have had access to at eye level the moment he walked into that house?
No, ma'am.
And there was no surprise that they were both walking through that door.
No, not at all. I mean, I had given her exact time that I was going to be there.
I pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Abbey, you have any further questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor, none of this witness.
Anybody else have any further questions for Ms. Lucero?
No, Your Honor.
No, Judge.
No, ma'am.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Is Ms. Lucero free to go at this time?
No objections.
No objection, Judge.
No objection.
No.
No objection.
All right, Ms. Lucero, you're free to go. I need to talk to the attorneys in the bench conference real quick. Let me get that set up. And Miss Katie, while I'm doing that, someone is logged in on by phone. It may be for this afternoon's things, but would you try to find out who that is just to be sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
I was in court, but my phone died, so I was in Judge Baker's court.
Okay, all right. So it's Maria.
Yes.
Okay, they went into a breakout room, so they'll be back here in just a few minutes, okay?
Okay, thank you.
I'm in, yeah.
Judge,
Okay.
that was Ms. Velasquez on the phone.
Okay, so we did lose her.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Ms. Velasquez, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Do you still have video capability?
Her phone is, does it work, Sarah?
Yeah.
We're going to try to get back in right now. Want some gingerbread man?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I'll go ahead and mute you so we can kind of keep going here. Mr. Abbey?
Yes, Your Honor.
Call your next witness. Ms. Velasquez, I'm going to mute your device.
I was trying to do it at the same time you were. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
Judge,
go ahead.
I'll call, for the purposes to prove up the affidavit of relinquishment for Mr. Hills and his client, I will call Michaela Kirksey. It should not take but just a minute.
All right. You may proceed.
Miss Kirksey, you're a permanency specialist working for St. Francis Ministries.
Yes, sir, I am.
In that capacity, you are familiar with Gabriel Aguilera, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
And you were asked to help with an affidavit of relinquishment of his parental rights.
Yes, sir, I was.
And he is incarcerated in post Texas?
Yes, sir.
Did you go to Post yesterday?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you provide to Mr. Aguilera an affidavit of relinquishment of his parental rights?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you witness that being executed by Mr. Aguilera?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did he do that voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
You didn't ask him to or force him to in any form or fashion?
No, sir, I did not.
And once that affidavit was properly executed, did you then send it to us and it was filed with the court?
Yes, sir, I did.
Your Honor, we would offer as Petitioner's Exhibit 11 the affidavit of relinquishment of Mr. Gabriel Aguilera that was filed yesterday with this court.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
No objection.
As far as you know, Ms. Kirksey, Mr. Aguilera doesn't have a relationship with his son, Zabriel?
No, he does not.
Do you want that admitted, Mr. Albee?
Oh, I do want it admitted. I apologize, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. I will admit the voluntary affidavit of relinquishment of parental rights executed, witnessed, and notarized by Gabriel Aguilera.
You've been a worker for Zabriel for a little while now. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is he doing well in his current placement?
He's doing amazing in his current placement.
There's not any criminal actions in his current placement?
No, sir.
No substance abuse activity going on in his current placement?
No, sir.
Do you believe then that, well, in his current placement, have they made some efforts for them to possibly be a permanent placement for this child?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And do you believe then it would be in the best interest of Zabriel for Gabriel's parental rights to be terminated at this time?
Yes, sir, I do.
I'll pass the witness for the time being, Your Honor. I'll ask that Ms. Kirksey be available for recall.
For Mr. Hill's benefit, because I'm going to release him here in just a minute, I will announce that I will terminate Gabriel Aguilera's right to his voluntary affidavit of relinquishment under Texas Family Code 161001, subsection B1K, and the best interest of the child under 161001, subsection B2. All right, Mr. Hill, at this time, I don't see there's any need for you to remain unless you just want to. So you are free to go at this time.
Thank you very much, Judge.
Okay, have a good day. All right, Mr. Albee, then I know we took that out of order, so you can call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Ms. Lisa Gotze. Ms. Gotze, how are you currently employed?
Currently have full-time employment at a different agency or a different place.
Okay, so you're not working for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services at this time?
No.
And you're not working for St. Francis Ministries at this time?
No.
In the fall of 2022, were you working for St. Francis Ministries?
In the fall?
Yeah. October or November?
I started back with St. Francis Ministries on October 31st of 2022.
Okay. In November of 2022, were you asked as a permanency specialist to begin working with Zoriel and Zabriel?
I believe that was in December.
Okay. So in December of 2022, were you asked to begin working with those two boys?
Yes.
Okay. And under what circumstances were you working with the boys at that time?
I was the permanency specialist for the family.
Were the children still currently with Ms. Velasquez?
They were not.
And where did you have the boys placed?
The boys were placed prior to my involvement.
Okay. Do you know where they were placed?
They were placed in foster care.
All right. And did you have any contact in December of 2022 with Miss Maria Velasquez?
It's been a very long time ago.
I understand.
I don't remember if my contact with her was in December or if it was in January. I'm sorry.
All right. What was your first, what is the recollection of your first contact with Miss Velasquez?
There was an icebreaker meeting held that involved Miss Velasquez, the boys, and the caregivers, the foster care parents.
And how did that icebreaking meeting go?
Todd, hang on just a second. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we lost the judge. Her camera just went off. Never mind. Sorry.
No, I'm here.
Okay. So how did that meeting go?
That was a rough meeting.
Okay. Who made it rough?
I think the whole situation was just rough. Whenever we got there, we waited for everybody to come in, and then Zarel was in the foster mom's arms and did not want to even let go of her. I'm sorry, Zabriel was in the foster mom's arms and did not want to let go of her, and Zarel just sat in a chair with his knees drawn up and his arms wrapped around him.
So did you believe that there was a disconnect between the boys and their mother?
I believe so.
Okay. And were you the caseworker when the judge ordered that the children be returned to Miss Velasquez in January?
Yes.
And let me, for the record, that's January of 2023, correct?
Correct.
All right. And did you attempt to return the boys to Miss Velasquez on January the 11th of 2023?
I believe it was the 11th. It was the day following the court hearing.
Okay. And was Miss Velasquez present when you attempted to return the children?
No, she was not.
Did she contact you and advise you where she was at?
She did after the fact.
Okay. And where did she tell you that she was at?
She told me that she was, I believe, in Spring, Texas.
And what did she tell you she was doing?
Taking some tests for a CDL or something to that extent.
Now, we had just had a hearing the afternoon before.
Yes.
The court ordered that the children be returned to her.
Yes.
And she's contacted, and when you take the children, she's not home.
Correct.
Sometime later, you know how much later she contacted you and told you she was in Spring, Texas?
I don't really recall, but I remember that we were at the DFPS office at that time with the boys.
So did you arrange to go the following day to return the children to Miss Velasquez?
No, that was all done through the FBSS.
Okay. Were you present the following day when the children were returned to Miss Velasquez?
I was not.
Okay. The children were then ordered to be removed from Miss Velasquez again on or about January 17th. Is that your understanding?
It is.
And were you still the caseworker at that time?
I was.
And did you ask Miss Velasquez to drug screen at that time?
I don't remember if it was at that time exactly or not. But the next time I asked her to drug screen was in February.
Okay. And in February, when you asked her to drug screen, did she comply?
I asked her on the 15th to go, but she did not go until the 22nd.
And did she get actual results on the 22nd?
She did.
And what were the results?
Her UA was positive for amphetamine at 841, methamphetamine at 919. Her hair follicle was positive at 2056 for methamphetamine.
Now, the court ordered the removal and allowed the removal on January the 31st of 2023. Was it your job as a permanency specialist to start preparing a family plan of service?
Yes.
Did you prepare a family plan of service for Miss Velasquez?
I did.
Did she cooperate with you in preparing that family plan of service?
In preparing it?
Yes.
I don't recall. I'm sorry.
Did you discuss the family plan of service with Miss Velasquez?
I did.
And did she acknowledge that she understood what services you were asking her to complete?
She refused to sign the family plan of service. but a copy of it was given to her whenever I went over it with her.
Did you talk to her about who Zoriel father was?
I really don't recall. I'm sorry.
Do you recognize the name Alejandro Rodarte?
I do.
Did you prepare a family plan of service for him?
I did.
Okay. But did you ever talk to him?
I talked to a gentleman that I believe was him. There was a Social Security number provided in the tab and impact for his personal identification. And so I was able to locate somebody with the same name, the same date of birth, and the same last four of the social. I believe it was in around Big Spring, Texas, if I recall correctly.
And did you advise him that we needed to try to prove that he was the father to Zoriel?
I did, and he said that he didn't know who Maria Velasquez was and that there was no way that he could be the father.
And did you ask to have him DNA screened so that we could determine for sure if he was or was not the father?
I explained that the whole process of like the DNA screening to him, and then there was a courtesy worker that actually went out and did the rest of that.
Now, you were the permanency specialist beginning in January when the children were officially moved from Miss Velasquez and placed in the care of the department until what date?
Until, let me pull up a calendar, I'm sorry. I believe the 28th.
During that time, from January through August, did anybody else reach out to you claiming to be the father to this child?
No.
And when we ran a paternity registry search, did anybody's name appear as already a father to this child?
Not that I recall.
Did Miss Velasquez ever work any of the services that you set out in her family plan of service?
She did do the OSAR and the psychological that were requested for her to do. But on both of those, she was dishonest in her answers to them.
And when you say she was dishonest, how do you know that?
Because on both of them, it was reported that she hadn't used any type of illegal substances in over 12 months, and her drug screens prove otherwise.
Did she work towards counseling or parenting so that she could alleviate some of the issues that were involved with the children being removed?
She refused to do any kind of counseling. And then as far as like the parenting, she did some online parenting classes, but it wasn't really anything that would line up with the kids in their age group.
So if she was doing some parenting classes, they were not parenting classes that were suited for the age children that she has. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, I couldn't verify like the information either that would be provided in that curriculum for it to be beneficial to count toward parenting classes.
From January through August, when you were the permanency specialist, do you believe that Miss Velasquez alleviated any of the reasons that the children were removed from her home?
No.
Was she allowed visitation with her children?
She was court-ordered no visits until she had a clean drug screen. I believe that she did have a clean drug screen in July, and visits started again either at the latter part of July or the beginning of August.
And do you recall if those visits were in person or if they were virtual?
They were in person at the office.
And how did those visits go?
They were rough.
And when you say rough, why do you describe them as that?
Well, the visitation has rules, and you're not supposed to talk about the case or the reasons why the kids are in care or anything like that. You're supposed to just come visit with your kids and make the most out of it. But she would constantly like just not follow the rules of visitation, and I would have to tell her something about it, and then she became very combative about it and argumentative. I guess combative is not the right word, but she became very argumentative about it. And, it was just inappropriate for the boys, and we had to end some of the visits because of it.
Did anytime after those visits began and before you left as her caseworker, did you have to have the court order those visits to be stopped?
The visits were stopped in the beginning due to the
from July when they started back until August when you left. Were they stopped?
No.
Okay. Do you know how many visits she exercised?
I don't recall.
You would have documented all of your interactions with Ms. Velasquez and the boys, and at the time that those interactions were completed, correct?
Correct.
And that's electronically kept, and the file is being held, or was being held by the subsequent caseworker in this case, Ms. Kirksey. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you feel like Ms. Velasquez followed the orders that the court made when the court ordered that Ms. Velasquez work the service plan that you had prepared?
Not during my time in the case.
Do you feel like the services that were set in that service plan would have, if completed, would have allowed for the return of the children to Ms. Velasquez?
It's hard to say. I mean, you can complete services without actually making the changes, so it's hard to say.
But if she would have completed the services and made the changes that were required, that was the reason for the service plan.
Yes.
Was Ms. Velasquez combative or cooperative with you during the time that you were the caseworker in this case?
There were times that she seemed to be cooperative, other times not so much. She was very argumentative with me about, just basically what she was and wasn't going to do as far as the service plan was concerned.
Did she routinely fail to complete drug screens when you asked her to take drug screens?
She did.
And one of the bigger concerns we had in this case was her drug use.
Yes.
Did you visit with the boys on a regular basis when they were removed from Ms. Velasquez's care?
Yes.
Did you see any changes in the boys from the time that they were removed until the time you stopped being the caseworker in August?
I did.
What kind of changes did you observe?
In the beginning, they were very kind of all over the place. I saw them settle into their placement and get a routine going. They were happy. They would talk to me and all of that. And then after visits started again, that just kind of ended. And they were foster parents reported behaviors that had previously been an issue that had gone away, that had come back.
Did you observe that the boys rapidly became more developmentally on target after they were removed from Ms. Velasquez?
Yeah, I mean, they were going to school regularly. They were doing really good.
Thank you, Ms. Cotsey. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Hammonds?
Ms. Cotsey, how long had you been with the department before you left?
I started with the department in February of 2020. Then I transitioned over to St. Francis in March of 2022. And then I went back to the department as an investigator in 2022 of March, the end of March. And then I came back to St. Francis on October 31st of 2022. And then I was there until August.
Okay. August of 2023.
Yes.
Okay. And at the times you were going from the department to St. Francis, was there just some indecision on your part as far as what department you wanted to work for, or what was going on?
I wanted to try my hand at investigations and decided that that was not really the job for me, that my place was more in the reunification.
All right. And then when you left in August of 2023, you were just moving on with another career, or what was your situation?
Well, I'm trying to obtain my master's degree, and I just wanted something that was a little less stressful while I was doing that.
Okay. Since August of 2023, you haven't had any contact with this case then, correct?
I have not.
And Miss Kirksey took it over at that time?
That's what they're saying. I'm sorry, they didn't really tell me who all my cases were going to.
All right. As the permanency specialist, as somebody completes their services, do you inform them that you want proof of those completions, the certificates?
Yes.
And did Ms. Velasquez ever provide you with any of those certificates?
She did provide me with the ones for the parenting that she did over on the, I don't even recall what she did it through.
Okay, but you specifically recall it was not through the department's approved group here in town.
Right. I gave her a list of different places that she could do the parenting classes through. And like I said, I just couldn't confirm that the site that she went to online and did those classes through.
Okay. And then counseling wise, she never gave you anything that indicated she was going to a counselor.
Correct.
Did you suggest any type of inpatient drug counseling for Ms. Velasquez when you first got the case?
No, I set up what they call an OSAR for her to, and then they make recommendations based off that.
All right. And did you ever see that recommendation?
I did.
Okay. Do you recall what that was?
They recommended a drug and alcohol program through the Padre Intervention Program.
All right. And did you give her the contact information for that?
I do not recall if I gave that to her, if that was provided to her through the OSAR assessment.
Were you present to observe some of the visitations between Ms. Velasquez and the boys?
Yes.
And were those hour-long visits?
I believe so.
I mean, were those at your office, or where were those?
They were at the office. At the St. Francis office.
I have nothing further, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Barfield?
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, what dealings did you have with Alejandro in this particular case, Rodarte?
Those were just phone calls. I can't even verify that the person, I mean, I had them verify date of birth and all of that, but without actually seeing them or seeing their ID, I can't even verify who I was actually speaking with.
Okay. Well, just to kind of shorten my questions up, would it be fair to say that we're not sure if Alejandro Rodarte is even the father of either of these children?
That's correct.
And he certainly, to your knowledge, didn't do anything to cause the removal of these children.
That's correct.
All right. And that will be the end of my questions, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Michelson, any questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. And Ms. Zavala?
Ms. Godsey, you were present at the hearing on January 10th, correct?
I believe so.
And Mom was present at that hearing?
Oh, yes.
And at that hearing, the judge announced that the kids were going home?
Yes.
After that, at that hearing, did Mom ever say, hey, wait, I'm in Spring, Texas?
She did not.
Did she call you after the hearing and say, hey, wait, I'm not there for you to return the kids?
She did not.
Okay. When you went the next day to return the kids, she wasn't there?
She was not.
Okay. Did you call her at that point?
I called her before I even went to go pick them up to let her know about an ETA and when I would have them back in town.
Did you reach her at that point?
The first call I did not, no.
Okay. Did you ever reach her?
I left a voicemail for her at that one, and then her mom called me. I believe it was her mom that called me back like an hour or two later and told me that she had broke her phone or something and that she would be reaching out to me. And then she did call me from somebody else's phone later. And after, I mean, I'd already went and picked up the kids and was on my way back with them at that time.
Okay. So she only called you when you reached out to her?
Yes.
And at no point did you have missed calls that said, "Hey, we need to reschedule this. I'm not in town."
I did not.
And in February, she did go to a drug test and it was positive, correct?
Let me pull that back up. I'm sorry. In February, yes, I asked her to go on 2/15, but she did not go until 2/22.
And even when she went many days later, that UA was still positive.
Yes, as well as the hair follicle.
So at that point, it wasn't even a random UA. It was a multi-day notice UA.
Well, maybe on her end.
Okay. And then after that, you said she missed a number of drug screens that you sent her to.
I sent her to another one, and this is all I have access to, like right here in front of me, but I did send her to another one on 3/28, but she did not go. In February of 2023, I could not make contact with her. And then in May, she was asked to go by 5/25. She was asked on 5/24 to go by 5/25 by 4 p.m. And I don't have any record after that, like right in front of me.
And she didn't appear in May.
I don't recall without going back and looking at my notes. Again, the same thing for June and July. I just know that in July she had a negative screen.
Okay. You were asked by Mother's attorney about the recommendations from the OSAR, correct?
Yes.
And the recommendations from the OSAR were for the Padre class, right?
Correct.
But I want to go back to something that you said before. Those recommendations were based on her telling the OSAR provider that she hadn't used any drugs in the last 12 months.
Correct.
At the beginning of the case, there was some concern that Zoriel might be on the autism spectrum. Do you remember that?
I remember that being brought to my attention well after getting this.
Did it turn out that once he was placed in a stable environment, that those symptoms simply went away?
I mean, he was doing really, really, really well up until the time that visit started back.
He's been to lots of medical exams?
Yes.
He was placed in a home with a child who was on the autism spectrum?
Yes.
And who was receiving special services for that, correct?
I wasn't the worker for that child. I'm not really sure what services he was receiving.
But Zoriel didn't need any of those services, correct?
Not while I was involved in the case.
I'll pass the witness.
Any further questions, Mr. Abbey?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Gotze?
No, Judge.
Okay. I'm seeing everybody else shaking their heads no.
No objection.
All right, Ms. Gotze, thank you very much for your time today. Nice to see you and appreciate you logging in. Have a good rest of your day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so for everybody else, I've got to take up a couple of other matters that were scheduled, one at 1 o'clock, one at 2 o'clock. So I don't think that 2 o'clock should take very long. So I would like to have you all log back in around 2:15. And then we'll have the balance of the day to wrap this up. You can call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would recall Miss Michaela Kirksey.
All right, Ms. Kirksey, you were previously sworn. You're still under oath, so you may proceed.
Ms. Kirksey, you're a St. Francis Ministry Permanency Specialist, correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
And when did you take over their case?
I became the caseworker in September.
You, where are the children currently placed?
They're currently placed in a
Your Honor?
legal placement.
Yes.
Yeah. I would just ask that locations be kept general.
I think
Yes.
what Stacy is asking is that we don't give out any addresses, Ms. Kirksey. And if you will, and I understand that you probably are aware of that. We just want to, for the record, that's the reason. Okay?
Yes, sir. They're placed in legal risk placement right now.
Okay. And how long have they been in that particular placement?
They have been placed in that placement since November 19th.
And
Of 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
And how are they doing in that placement?
They are doing phenomenal in the placement. We don't have any safety concerns, any concerns with their well-being there.
At the time of the children's removal, there were some developmental delays. And in your dealings with these two boys, do you recognize any developmental delays?
Not currently. I do know just through the documentation reports from therapists and from the schools that originally, whenever the boys had come into care, Zarel specifically was struggling very far behind in school. There was concern of him being autistic and really focused on the social aspect of his delays as well.
And have those concerns been alleviated while he's been in care?
Yes, sir, they have been.
And do you know if he is suffering from social delays at this time?
No, sir. He's thriving in placement. He's thriving socially. He's thriving in school. Any concerns that the department had have been completely alleviated.
Has St. Francis Ministries made sure that he has gotten the counseling and the medical help that he needs?
Yes, sir.
Do you know if he's on any psychotropic medications at this time?
Zarel was placed on psychotropic medications. Right now, he is not. His doctor actually was concerned that some of the symptoms that he was having from the ADHD was actually more trauma-based and related. So they've taken him off of the medications, and he has been doing so much better off of the medications altogether. So the doctor doesn't want to set him on any other prescriptions until they just continue to see how he's doing.
The current placement, he's only been there for a couple of months.
Yes, sir.
Is that a placement that is a possible long-term placement for these boys?
They are absolutely more than willing to be a long-term and permanent placement for both boys.
Have they gone through the foster licensing programs?
Yes, sir, both for foster and for adoption.
So I'm assuming that there's no outstanding criminal issues with this couple. Or is it a couple or is it a family? Tell me, is it two people, one person? Who is it?
It's a couple. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so neither one of them have any outstanding criminal issues?
No, sir.
No history of substance abuse or any current substance abuse issues?
No, sir.
Okay. The boys are safe in that home?
Absolutely.
Now, Zoriel's father has been alleged to be Gabriel Rodarte. Have you had any contact with Mr. Rodarte?
Just to clarify too, I think it was Alejandro Rodarte.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. Can you say that question? What were you asking? I apologize.
Have you had any contact with that gentleman?
No, sir. I have not personally had any contact with him.
Has anybody reached out to you saying that they are Zoriel's father?
No, sir.
How old is Zoriel right now?
Zarel is 7 years old.
Are you aware that we ran or asked for a paternity registry search in this case?
Twice, yes, sir.
And nobody has filed or registered as Zarell's father.
Correct.
Are you aware that Mr. Rodarte was asked to genetic test, or a person that claimed he was Mr. Rodarte was asked to genetic test 2 different times prior to you taking over the case?
Yes, sir.
And do you know if either one of those tests was done?
Neither were completed, no, sir.
So we don't know. All we have is an alleged father. We don't have any adjudicated father, correct?
Correct.
And nobody's reached out to you. Mr. Rodarte hasn't reached out to you since he was served by publication.
No, sir.
Do you believe then that it would be in Zarell's best interest for Mr. Rodarte's parental rights to be terminated, or if he's not the father, then any unknown father's rights to be terminated at this time?
Yes, sir, I do.
Ms. Maria Velasquez is the mother to these 2 boys. Have you been in contact with Ms. Velasquez?
I've had sporadic contact with Ms. Velasquez, yes.
And has she been cooperative with you in trying to complete the services that she was ordered to complete?
No, sir, she has not.
All right. First of all, let me ask you about visitation. Is she exercising visitation with the boys?
No, she is not currently.
When was the last time that she exercised any visitation with the boys?
Her last day that we have record of visitation was September 14th. She was receiving therapeutic visits. They have stopped since then.
And do you know why those visits have stopped?
Well, there was concern with the visits whenever they were brought back up, as far as spikes in the behavior changes of the boys. There were concerns brought up by the counselor for the well-being of the visits for the boys, and there was also concern brought up by Maria, who had stated that she was concerned that the counselor, Mr. N. Devilson, if that's how you say it, she said that she felt like he was a pedophile and that some of the dolls in the playroom were in relation to sex dolls, essentially. However, whenever I got the case, these visits had started up for a short amount of time. All of the concerns were happening. The first thing I did was dive into the court orders and started reading. I found out that the visits had started back up after a court order requesting that a UA had to be clean and provided, as well as a hair follicle that was either clean or showing declining levels. After I went through the drug screen history, I saw that there was only 1 clean UA provided and mother had not tested for the hair follicle. So after I found that out, I PD staffed and we stopped visits right away. We have no longer been able to get the drug screen to start them back up.
All right. And that's what I was going to ask you. Have you requested that Ms. Velasquez hair follicle and UA drug screen so that we have current levels?
Several times, yes, sir.
Has she complied with your request?
No, sir.
Would you, in your review of the file, do you show that Ms. Velasquez has only had limited therapeutic visits through July and August of 2023 since the children were removed?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that that is not regular visitation with her children?
Yes, sir.
Or significant contact of other sorts?
Yes, sir.
Do you know where Ms. Velasquez is residing?
No, she has refused to provide the department with an address or a location.
And you've been involved in this case since September. Since September, have you been into a home that she has shown you that is her home?
I have not been into a home that she has shown me is her location of residence. I've located her once at a residence where she did open the door. She closed it as soon as she saw it was me, and I identified myself as a St. Francis permanency specialist.
So would you agree with me that she has not provided you with evidence of a stable, safe home for the children?
Absolutely.
The children have been in the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services care for about a year. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that the court ordered that Ms. Velasquez work services through a family plan of service?
Yes, sir, I am.
And have you had an opportunity to review that family plan of service?
Yes, I have.
I'm going to go through some part parts that I think are in that family plan service, and I want you to talk to me about those, okay?
Yes, sir.
Is she required to provide St. Francis Ministries within 5 days of changes in her residence, phone number, or employment?
Yes, sir.
Has she done that?
No, sir.
Do you know where she is currently employed?
No, I've asked her and she's refused to give me an answer.
Do you have a current phone number for her?
I'm not too sure if it's a current phone number. I haven't been able to get in contact with her on that phone number in a while, but I do have one listed for her.
All right. She is also, as part of her service plan, is she required to maintain regular contact with you as a permanency specialist?
Yes, sir.
And has she done that since September when you became the worker?
No, sir. She's not maintained regular contact with me.
Have you attempted to reach out to her on a regular basis?
Yes, sir, I have.
And does she respond when you reach out to her?
No, she does not.
Does the family planning service require that she have her own transportation for appointments and visitations?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does she have her own transportation?
The last time that I spoke to her about a vehicle, she said that the car that she was getting to drive her around, I believe, was a family member's vehicle. She didn't indicate that she has her own. But most of the time we can tell if they have reliable transportation, if they're showing up to their visits or any of that kind of stuff, services, and she's not. So we have no way of verifying that.
Has she provided you with current driver's license or current proof of insurance for any vehicle?
No, sir, she is not.
Have you asked for those things?
Yes, sir, I have.
I show that she was required to attend and participate in a psychiatric evaluation. Did she do that?
No, sir, she is not.
And she's required to maintain a drug-free lifestyle, correct?
Yes, sir.
And since September, has she provided you with any kind of drug screens?
No, she is not. I believe January marks the 6 months of her not attending.
Are you aware that she had positive drug screens when the children were removed from her?
Yes, sir.
An OSAR evaluation was requested. Do you know if she completed an OSAR evaluation?
She did complete her OSAR evaluation. However, she was not providing truthful information at the OSAR assessment, and she did not follow up with the recommendation of the drug assessment classes through Padre program, which is also a requirement on the family plan to not only get the assessment, but to follow all recommendations.
So, Ms. Godsey testified that she didn't believe that her assessment was honest because she didn't admit to drug use.
Yes, sir.
And it was recommended that she attend Padre, and as far as you know, she has not attended Padre.
No, sir.
Do you know if she has attended or participated and completed an accredited parenting course?
She has not completed, attended, or participated in an accredited parenting course. No, sir.
Do your records reflect that she's completed any parenting classes?
I saw in the documentation that she had reported that she had gone to a couple of different parenting classes online. The worker at the time was unable to confirm if those were what she needed to be doing or what kind of information she was learning from them.
And she won't communicate with you so that you can ask her about what she learned or what type of parenting class it was or anything?
No, sir.
I show that she was required to do a psychosocial through Stonebridge. Do you know if she completed a psychosocial analysis?
I did not have any records of her completing a psychosocial at Stonebridge. No, sir.
I show that she was required to complete a minimum of 6 sessions of individual counseling. Do you know if she's completed any counseling?
She is not, no.
I show that she was required to complete a rational behavior therapy class. Do you know if she's completed any rational behavior therapy class?
No, sir, she is not.
Are those services that were set forth in that service plan meant to provide an opportunity for Ms. Velasquez to have her children returned to her?
Yes, sir.
You've testified that since September you've reached out to her on a regular basis. Why do you do that?
I reach out to the parents on my caseload not only because we're required by DFPS a certain amount of times, but that's the only way we can give them the opportunity to get engaged in their services and make them feel supported through the department and staying connected with their children.
Do you believe that those are reasonable efforts in an attempt to return the children to Ms. Velasquez?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, Ms. Velasquez, I'm going to stop everybody for just a minute. Ms. Velasquez, that chat feature is not for you to try to communicate anything to the court. It's for limited purposes. If you need to speak with your attorney, I'll put you in a breakout room.
Your Honor, how come I can't have my support team enter? They've been trying to get into the court just to witness what's going on, and they're not allowing them to get in.
Well, it's being broadcast on YouTube. They can watch it there. Need to speak with your attorney?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. You can proceed, Mr. Ellie. Sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Kirksey, in your opinion, has Ms. Velasquez completed or followed the court orders?
No, sir.
Do you believe that it was Ms. Velasquez's own actions that caused the children to be removed from her care?
I do.
This time, do you believe that the children are in a more safe, more stable environment than they were when they were removed from Ms. Velasquez?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Do you believe that it would be in the best interest of both of these children for Ms. Velasquez's parental rights to be terminated today?
Yes, sir, I do.
Are you asking the court then to terminate her parental rights to both boys?
Yes, sir, I am.
And if the court does do that, are you asking that the court name the department as permanent managing conservator of both boys while we continue to seek possible adoption?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Hammonds?
Ms. Kirksey, when was the first time you actually met with Maria Velasquez face-to-face?
I've only met with Maria Velasquez face-to-face twice in this case. I believe the first one was in October, and then the second one was at the end of November.
All right, and the times you met with her face-to-face, where was that?
The first time that I met with her face-to-face was at her residence or reported residence in Amarillo. We didn't get to a conversation. That's the one where she closed the door. And then the second time she'd come to the office in Amarillo due to safety concerns, and it was at the St. Francis office here.
Okay, how many times did you go back to that address on Milam?
3 times a month since I've gotten this case.
Okay, and have you knocked on the door and to see if anybody's home?
Yes, sir.
Okay, nobody's answered the door.
Only the one time that Maria answered the door and then abruptly closed it. Yes, sir.
Okay, are there vehicles at that house?
On occasion, there's one vehicle that I see parked in the front, and then I've seen it parked on the side of the house. It's the same vehicle whenever I go.
All right, and then other communications with her, have they been through text messaging or email, or how has that happened?
Text messages and phone calls, yes, sir.
Okay, about how many times a month would you talk to her on the phone?
I don't know. I think that I've only actually been able to get in contact with her on the phone and speak to her a handful of times. Through text message, it really just depends. There's some months where she messages me back to back to back to back, and then there's some months that I can't get her to respond whenever I send her to drug screen.
Okay, and some of those text messages were requests for her to go drug screen?
Yes, sir, every month since I've had the case.
Okay. And since August, when you took over the case, there has been a monthly request for her to go give some type of drug screen.
Yes, sir.
Has she responded to you, or has she just not shown up at the Care Express?
As of lately, the last couple of months, she hasn't responded to any of the messages.
All right. So is it safe to say Ms. Velasquez did not embrace your department as a partner in helping her get her boys back?
Very safe to say, yes, sir.
All right, because it's your testimony. She's done nothing that you wanted her to do in her case plan.
Yes, sir. She's not complied with the services to full extent in her case plan.
Has she had any visits with the boys since August, since you took over?
Like I said, the last visit that I have for her was on 9/14 from the department. Since then, no.
And did she contact you regarding any future visits, or when did you inform her she would have no more visits?
I do not recall the exact date. I actually, let me see. I want to say that we goal changed. It had to have been within the next week, I believe, since the therapeutic visits were canceled, that she was informed. I let her know the reasoning why. Her responses weren't about setting up further visits. It was just about disagreeing with it.
All right. Do you recall her explanation to you as to why she wasn't going to carry through with the family plan?
Yes, she stated several times that she does not believe that this court order is a legal court order. She doesn't think that pretty much any of the CPS case is happening legally. She doesn't believe that the department has any type of authority in asking her to go drug screen. She stated that she doesn't believe Judge Baker has any authority to tell her to go do so. She also stated that she believes that the department is falsifying her drug screens whenever she does go to attend.
Okay, they're basically just creating a positive result.
Yes, sir.
So therefore, she just wouldn't go back.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever text her or have a conversation with her describing the consequences of her failure to cooperate with the family plan?
Yes, sir.
What was the nature of that conversation?
Her response to me explaining the dangers of not doing a family plan and not addressing the risks that we have means risking her not getting her children back in her care. Her response was then that she was going to get her children back into care, but it wasn't going to be through a family plan of service. She truly believes that her children are coming home due to a lawsuit that she's filing with the United States government.
Okay. I have nothing further, Judge.
I'm sorry. Mr. Barfield.
Thank you, Judge. Has Ms. Velasquez ever indicated to you she believes she's a sovereign citizen?
No, she's not indicated that to me directly.
Now, have you discovered in your dealings with her, would you consider Ms. Velasquez a reliable source of information?
No, sir.
So she has mentioned that my client, Mr. Rodarte, may be the father of Zoriel. Based on her statements, would you believe that any statement she made in that regard would be reliable at this point?
No, sir.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Michelson, any questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Zavala.
Ms. Kirksey, when you took over the case, you reviewed the entire file, correct?
Yes, sir. Or yes, I'm sorry, I'm getting used to Mr. Alvey. Yes, ma'am.
That's okay. There was, it sounds like a 2-month period of time where there were some visits going on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When that visit stopped, did you tell her if we get a clean hair follicle and a clean UA, we can start those back up?
Yes, ma'am.
And still after hearing that, she wouldn't go to drug screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Have the boys' behavior improved dramatically after the visit stopped?
Yes, ma'am.
In in addition to trying to reunify with mom, the department in St. Francis also has to try to identify family members, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And there was actually a home study that was done for a potential family placement.
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't that happen?
There was a home study request on a Miss Rodriguez. She was a fictive kinship placement. She said that she was willing to take both of the boys. I explained to her the expectations of a home study, and then whenever she agreed to it, we turned in the information to get the home study done. Once it was approved, then we went ahead and had a meeting with her to explain to her where we are at with the case, some of the behaviors that the boys were having, and some of the safety concerns that we had with Maria, making sure that she was going to be a protective placement. At this time, she withdrew her want to be a placement for both boys. She did say that she was considering taking one of them.
I think we've lost mom. We've lost mom.
I guess there's a possibility, Judge, her phone battery might have gone dead.
Possibly. Okay. Okay, we've got her back in. So, all right, Ms. Kirksey, you can proceed.
Okay. So essentially the home study was approved. After speaking to her about some of the behaviors of the boys and the concerns in the case, she did say that she was considering only taking one of them. We explained to her that splitting up the siblings was not something we were wanting to do. She did tell me that she felt like Maria had been contacting her a lot more, kind of blowing up her phone, and that she was concerned because she felt like Maria was going to be able to find out where she lived, and she wasn't sure that she could essentially ensure the children's safety with that being said.
Did we have some issues with Maria being aggressive or threatening with foster family?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
And so it was these same type of behaviors that family placement was witnessing?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what caused the home study to be withdrawn?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that sometimes she responds to text. Are these text messages on the same phone number that you've been trying to reach her at the entire time?
Yes, ma'am.
So at some point, she's receiving your communication?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what she said about the counselor who was doing the family supervised visits.
She had reported that she believed that he was a pedophile.
Did she say why?
I believe that the reasoning was between the dolls and the way that he was with her children during the visits that made her, and she said, the children uncomfortable.
Have the children ever indicated to you where they want to be?
Yes.
Where's that?
They want to stay with their current placement.
And this placement happened in November after the family placement fell apart, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But other than that, they were at the same home the entire time they were in care.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
At any point since you have been the caseworker, has Ms. Velasquez ever drug tested for you?
No.
How many times do you think you asked her to drug test?
Since I've became the caseworker on this, at least once a month. I believe there was 1 month at the beginning where she was sent twice.
And even before you took over, do the records reflect that she was asked to drug test?
Yes, ma'am.
And visits started back up because she showed up one time and had one clean UA?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and Mr. Alley, I think did you say pass?
She did, Your Honor.
Okay, that's what I thought. It was real faint. Okay.
I don't have any further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Hammonds, anything further?
I have no other questions, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Barfield?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Michelson?
None, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, Mr. Alley, any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor. At this time, I'll rest.
All right, department rests. Mr. Hammonds, any witnesses to call?
I'll call Maria Velasquez.
Okay. Ms. Taylor, do you want just a real short little break before we start her? You good? Okay. All right. All right. Okay.
No, I don't have the video. My daughter's phone died, but I'm on the line.
Okay. All right. Then we'll just do this by audio. Okay. All right. Mr. Hammonds, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Maria, first of all, in the last few years, have you had any contact with Alejandro Rodarte?
Yes, I've had a couple of calls from him from the jail he was in Big Spring.
Okay, how long ago was that?
In the summer and in the spring of last year, he called me, video chatted with me with a cell phone he had as contraband.
Okay, is he on Exoriel's
birth certificate? Yes.
As the dad, okay. And has he ever exercised visitation or provided you any support for Zoriel?
He's tried to provide support, but every time he tries to come across the border, they catch him and send him back. But he has tried to come and support us and support his son and actually see his son for the first time because he was deported when my son was 2 weeks. So yes, he has tried to come across the border and support his child. They won't allow him.
Okay, he's not trying to enter legally then?
No, he actually crosses and does it the wrong way.
Okay. And you have no idea where he is right now?
He was deported out of El Paso back to Saltillo, Coahuila, where the other mother of his children are and his mother. He was actually deported before his father died, so he's there currently.
Okay, and the last time you had any contact with him was this last summer?
Yes.
All right, where are you living right now?
Same address. I find it hard to stay there due to the sadness that I get while I'm there, just seeing my kids' toys. So I stay with my oldest daughter.
Okay.
But I go home every day.
All right. Had you informed Miss Kirksey that you were staying with your oldest daughter?
Yes, sir, I have. Since I think they first assigned her to my case in September, I let her know.
Okay, what's that address?
Sarah, what's your address, baby? I think it's 1507. She just moved here. Let me look outside. But we were staying on Western, and I told her that I was down the street on Western. I just didn't feel comfortable with her.
Okay, and do you have your own phone right now?
I don't have a working phone. My phone was busted up. It fell and broke, and haven't been able to purchase a new one. And my SIM card was ruined, so I've called Q-Link. Q-Link hasn't sent me the SIM card, so I'm having trouble getting my SIM card. So I wasn't able to use my phone for about 3 months now.
Okay, and Miss Kirksey has had your daughter's phone number during that time?
She's had my sister's phone number and my mother's. I think the department has my mother's and my sister's number, but they have not told me anybody's contacted me.
Do you have a driver's license right now?
No, sir, I do not. I've actually tried to get one, but was locked out of the online system.
Okay, when was the last time you had insurance on your car?
Last year when I purchased my sticker, and I haven't renewed it, and I think it was in May.
Okay, is your car running right now?
Yes, sir. I'm just changing out the alternator, but it runs.
Okay, who's doing that for you?
This guy from the church, he's a volunteer, so he's a mechanic he volunteers for people at church, so he's working on my vehicle.
All right.
His name's Antonio.
Where's the last place you worked and received a paycheck?
I've been working side jobs, learning my trade industry, which is construction. I started going to school to open my own construction company because I realized my brothers were having trouble getting into jobs, so I wanted to open my own business. So I'm learning the trade on my own, doing side jobs, labor, which is drywall, carpenting, stuff like that, so that I can open my own construction company to help convicted felons.
Okay. At the time both of your boys were born, you were doing construction work?
Yes, sir. Side jobs, which is paid. I get paid like $50 a day for helping do the drywall and stuff.
Okay, and are they paying you with cash or checks?
Cash. I've reported that to my HUD caseworker, so she's got it on record that I work side jobs and don't make a lot of money. And it's not always a job. Like, I don't always have a job. They'll call me when they need me because it's a man's job. So if they need another hand or if they want to let me on the job, they'll take me with them. But it's not an everyday thing.
Okay, how do you buy food?
I was on food stamps with my children, but when they removed them, I applied on my own. So I get currently $300 of food stamps, and that's how I buy food.
Who else lives in your sister's house? Or your adult daughter's house, where you're staying right now? Who else lives there?
It's just her and her boyfriend and her 2 little girls and some dogs.
Okay, how old are the little girls?
5 and 8.
Okay. All right, they've indicated that they wanted you to go get a psychiatric evaluation done. Did you ever go set that up with Texas Panhandle Centers? Or?
I did do one on my own. I don't believe I did it around the time they asked me to. I think I did it before they asked me to. I've also done the OSAR assessment. And, well, actually, I think I did the one they asked me to online. They did it over the phone. I did a video chat with the psych evaluator.
Okay, the OSAR assessment, they wanted you to get involved in the Padre intervention program. Did you ever contact that program?
I did, but was also going to college I had like 3 classes, so I didn't have enough time. So I did not pursue it like I should, but I did do my own classes online, which were kind of the same thing that they were providing at that place. And it was easier for me to get it done that quicker because my classes, I have to get my assignments done at a certain time. If not, I don't get credit for them. So it worked out for me.
All right. You did take some parenting classes, correct?
Yes, sir. I took those back in January.
Okay. And who was that with?
They were faith-based out of a Scientology church. I've tried to reach out to the administrator of the church to see if they could get me some kind of proof of my online registry, but I'm not able to get in contact with the administrator.
You took those online?
Yes, sir.
Is there a local Church of Scientology here in Amarillo?
Not currently, I don't believe. I do go to church here in the local area, though, which also provides parenting and stuff like that.
Okay, where do you attend church?
Power Church.
Okay. All right, I want to talk about these drug screens that you went to initially. I mean, it's your position that you were clean and the positive result was falsified, correct?
Yes, I don't believe I was dirty. I know I wasn't dirty, so it was kind of awkward and odd for me to even see that they were saying I was dirty. So I went to...
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir. Well, I went to go investigate, further and called the labs and did some phone calls. I went to get the receipts. I looked at the receipts. The receipts didn't match my signature. I asked her who signed this as me, and she could tell me.
Objection. First of all, I don't know what receipts she's talking about, so anything she said about those receipts would be hearsay. Anything that anybody at the place would have told her would be hearsay.
All right, I'll sustain. And Ms. Velasquez, there's a lot of background noise wherever you're testifying.
Yes, I know.
And it makes it really difficult for the court reporter and really for all of us. Can you get somewhere that it's quiet?
Yeah, I just closed the door.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Mr. Hammonds, you can ask your next question.
All right. Beyond that, from July of 2023 until now, have you been requested monthly by Ms. Kirksey to go give a drug screen?
No, I have not. And I've tried to contact her with a reason why I'm not able to do the drug screen. She said that my name has not been pulled yet, so that she would let me know. And I don't, she doesn't contact me. I've tried to contact her and I don't get any return calls.
Okay, and you're trying to contact her through your daughter's phone?
Actually, my phone just messed up 3 months ago. So before that, I was contacting her directly from my phone, and was just the response I got from her was, "Your name is not called yet."
All right. But you haven't contacted her and volunteered to go give any drug screens.
I have, but she said I couldn't because my name wasn't called, and that she needed a paper from the court or from somebody for me to be able to take the drug screen.
Okay. So when she testifies that she had sent you text messages to go drug screen, you disagree with that?
Yes, sir. I have proof with phone records.
Okay. Now, they wanted you to get a psychosocial report done through Stonebridge. Did you ever contact Stonebridge?
They contacted me, and we did a video chat.
All right. So back in December, if Stonebridge confirmed that you had not called to set up an appointment for a psychosocial, you disagree with that?
Yes, sir. I did do one back in, I'd say, January of last year.
Okay.
And it was two people actually on the phone with me.
All right. Do you recall getting any kind of recommendation then from Stonebridge that you go to some minimum number of sessions, 6 sessions for individual counseling?
No, he said he would let me know if anything was required of me, because I asked him what was next. He said, "I will contact you if anything is required of you," and nobody contacted me. Who did contact me was OSARS, and I did go do the assessment with him.
Okay. You were, as part of your family plan, they wanted you to go do a rational behavior class. Did you ever contact anybody to do a rational behavior class?
No, sir, I didn't, but I did a rational behavior class online as well, and I think I submitted that with the court.
Okay. Okay. Do you still have all of the boys' furniture there at the Milam address?
Yes, everything is intact the way they left it.
I mean, would you be able to take care of the boys if they were given to you today?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Okay. Are you working anywhere right now?
No, sir, I'm actually working with a caseworker out of the HUD department, building a resume to get a better career focus on which way I want to go before I go into the construction company.
Okay. Are you planning on going back to school, or what's your goal?
I want to go back to school. I'm already going to graduate in May and get my associate's degree in business management, hopefully get started on my bachelor's, and I'll go from there. I just want to be able to open my business and have something better in the future for me and my kids, because just working 9 to 5 is not going to do it.
Okay, and hopefully the new alternator gets your car running.
Yes, my car is a for sure car. It's just the alternator gave out, and it was going to give out pretty soon, so I'm just rebuilding it.
And it's your position, you've never done drugs throughout this entire case?
No, sir, I have not. I'm kind of shocked that it came out that way. I did let Mr. Jerry McLaughlin know I was taking some high blood pressure decongestants like every day, but I was not involved in any kind of drug use this year. Last year.
The positive results for methamphetamine and amphetamine are what you believe to be are false positives.
I do believe that, sir, with all my heart. I do.
Okay. I have nothing further, Judge.
All right. Mr. Albee?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Velasquez, you tested positive on an oral drug screen on December 5th, 2022, and you're saying that that's a false positive?
Yes, sir. I like I said, I'm in shock myself. I've asked them to...
Anything other than yes or no, I'm going to try to keep this as limited as I can.
Yeah, just
okay,
listen.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just listen carefully to his question and just answer what he's asked.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Velasquez, you tested positive for methamphetamines on a drug screen on January the 12th of 2023, and that's a false positive?
Yes, sir.
You tested positive for methamphetamines on January 20th, 2023, and that's a false positive?
Yes, sir.
You tested positive on a drug screen on February the 22nd of 2023, and that's a false positive?
Yes, sir.
And you tested positive on a drug screen on June 26th of 2023, and that's a false positive?
Yes, sir.
And all of these drug screens are incorrect. because of mistakes either by St. Francis Ministries or the Department of Family and Protective Services or somebody at the lab?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay. You took a parenting class from some online Scientology church. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yes.
And
Yes,
did you provide a certificate to either Miss Godsey or Miss Kirksey when you completed that parenting class?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And it's the St. Francis Ministries who have made a mistake by not filing that with the court.
Yes, sir.
And have you completed counseling? Did you go to a counselor?
I have counseling at school, actually.
Okay, that's not my question. Did you go to a counselor? Well, maybe it is. Did you go to a counselor that St. Francis Ministries tried to send you to?
No, sir, I did not.
All right. You say that you did a psychiatric evaluation at TMC. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And as far as you know, they didn't have any further recommendations that you needed to do?
No, sir.
Did they provide you with a report?
They were going to email it to me, so I haven't looked.
Okay. But you don't have a copy of a report in hand right now?
No, sir. I believe they were going to send it to the St. Francis.
And if that hasn't been filed, that's St. Francis Ministries' problem.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? And
yes, sir.
You did a psychosocial with Stonebridge, and whoever you worked with at Stonebridge was going to get back with you at a later date, and nobody has gotten back with you.
No, sir. Nobody has.
And you did an OSAR evaluation, and you told them that you didn't use illegal substances, but they still sent you to Padre. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you just decided that it was more important for you to go to your college classes than it was to do your Padre classes.
Yes, sir.
Good. Did Lisa Godsey tell you at any point in time that you had to complete the services on your service plan so that you could get your kids back?
She did, sir, but the service plan said adoption, not reunification. That's why I did not agree, sir.
That wasn't my question. It's just the question is, did Miss Godsey tell you that you could not get
she did, sir. She did, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Miss Fox, let him finish his question before you start to answer.
Okay.
Do you agree with me that you have not completed your service plan today?
I do agree, sir, yes.
You haven't taken any kind of a drug screen since July of 2023.
September.
Oh, you took something in September. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what kind of drug screen did you take in September?
A hair stem.
Okay. Would you also agree with me that you didn't have any contact with your boys from January until July?
Not because I wanted to. It wasn't up to me. It was up to the court, supposedly.
I understand. That's not my question. My question is, you did not have any contact with your boys from January through July.
Yeah.
All right. And that you have not had contact with your boys since mid-September.
Yes.
You have been told that you needed to have clean drug screens to be able to have contact with your boys.
Yes, sir.
But you haven't reached out to Miss Kirksey, or you haven't communicated with Miss Kirksey about taking a drug screen.
Yes.
I mean, you've reached out to her, she's reached out to you, but y'all haven't been able to connect, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you think that would have been very important to do, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, one other issue. Do you remember in January of last year, about a year ago now, when we had a hearing and the judge ordered that your children get to go home to you?
Yes, sir, I do.
And you just took off and went to Spring, Texas, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And when you got back, we drug screened you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that drug screen was one of these that's a false positive, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Velasquez. I'll pass with you.
Okay, Mr. Barfield?
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Mr. Robleto's attorney. If I recall your testimony, you testified he is in Mexico right now.
Yes, sir.
How do you know that?
I speak to his family.
Specifically, who do you
I
speak
thought,
to?
I mean, I would think y'all would know that. You said y'all knew that.
I'm just trying to confirm how you know where he is.
I speak to his family daily.
Okay. When is the last time you spoke to him?
In the summer last year.
Okay. And who in his family do you speak to daily?
His sister,
Okay. And what is her name?
Nancy Rodarte.
Okay. And does she live in the United States or in Mexico?
She lives in Clovis, New Mexico.
Okay. And let's talk about the birth of your oldest child, Zorel. Is that who you're saying Mr. Robleto's the father?
It's Rodarte. Yes, he is the father.
Was he present at the birth?
Yes.
Okay. And where was that child born?
In Northwest Texas Hospital.
Okay. And now, to your knowledge, did he ever fill out a paternity registration form?
No, sir. He was actually fighting his visa at that time when he was scared. So no, he did not.
So just for the record, it's pretty obvious, but he is not a U.S. citizen. Is that correct?
No, he is not. Yes, sir.
Has he ever participated in any way, shape, or form in the child's life?
Through phone calls.
Okay. Has he ever seen this child in person?
No, sir.
Has he ever sent you child support for this child?
Yes, he has.
Okay. Was that done through the Attorney General or some other agency, or was it done privately?
Privately.
Okay. And when did he send you this child support?
When my son was 3.
Did this occur on many occasions or just a couple of occasions?
A couple of occasions.
And do you happen to recall approximately how much money was sent to you?
About $2,000 and then $2,500.
How was that money provided to you? Was it through a cash app? Was it cash? How was that done?
His family.
Okay, so specifically, who in his family gave you the funds?
His cousin came from Hereford to deliver it in person.
Okay, so Mr. Robleto never personally gave you that money?
No, sir.
Okay. Has he ever provided, other than that $2,000, any food or clothing or anything of that nature?
Clothing on his birthday, every birthday.
Okay. All right. Now, do you believe have you had any and you may have answered this, and if I repeat myself, I'll try not to, but in regards to the genetic testing that was requested in this case, do you know why he did not, do you know why he did not show up on 2 occasions for genetic testing?
He's very afraid of the laws with what he's going through with the Border Patrol and stuff, so he probably wouldn't go. He does acknowledge him as his son, so there would be no need to do it. That's possibly another reason too. They look exactly alike, so he doesn't need to take a blood test.
Okay. And I'm just going to ask you a really personal question here because I have to. Were there any other individuals prior to your son's birth, and we're talking about your oldest son's birth, that you were having relations with prior to your son being born?
No, sir. It was just my last 2 babies, the last 2 fathers that I was with.
Okay.
So now, no, to answer your question, there's no other possible father.
Okay. Now, in regards to the reasons for the removal in this case, did Robleto do anything to cause the removal of these children, in your opinion?
He did not, sir.
Now, is it your testimony that the reason he's not in the United States is because of immigration issues?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And due to the immigration issues, would that prevent him from seeing the children?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In other words, one, when the children were in your possession, did you have the resources to go to Mexico?
I did, but I think that's not I didn't want to do that. I'm afraid of Mexico with all this going on.
Okay, I understand that. I guess what I'm getting at is if he can't come into the country, it would be impossible for him to do services or to visit the children in person. Would you consider that an accurate statement?
Yes, sir. I've tried contacting the immigration to see if they would let him stay, but that was out of the question.
Sure. Above our pay grades, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that his parental rights should be terminated?
No, sir. He's a good father. He's a very good father.
Do you believe it would be in the best interests of your son to have his father's parental rights terminated?
No, sir.
I'll pass the witness.
Okay, Ms. Michelson?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Velasquez, did you provide a complete list to the department regarding potential fathers for Zoriel and Zabriel?
Not a list, sir. I provided the names of the actual fathers, which I have gone to Attorney General with.
Okay, and based on that information, you wouldn't change your testimony today?
No, sir.
Okay, pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Zavala?
You just mentioned the Attorney General. Did you ever do any kind of child support orders for either of these fathers?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I believe that it should be in the record, or y'all should be able to obtain those records. I did do both.
What county did you do that in?
Potter County.
And did those actions result in an actual order?
Yes, both of them were ordered child support, actually, but one was dismissed because he was an immigrant, which was Rodarte. The other one did not refuse to pay, did not want to pay, didn't refuse to show up, and was asking if he could relinquish his rights at the beginning of the stage.
How long ago was this?
3 years ago, I was advised that he refused to do the blood test, and then he did the blood test, so I got the blood test back. He was positive for the father, but refused to pay child support. He told me he was not going to pay a dime for him. That was not his child, so I just left it with the court.
Okay, when you say left it with the court, was an order obtained?
Yes, he was ordered to pay child support, but went to prison.
And Ms. Vella, I mean, to move this along, there was an Attorney General action that started back in 2021. There was genetic testing done. He was not excluded as the father of the child. I think it looks like maybe a default judgment was entered. Yeah. Okay. But that all had to do with Mr. Aguilera.
Got it. What did you think it would take for the boys to come home to you?
I couldn't answer that. I've been praying. I couldn't answer that, ma'am.
Were you told multiple times what it would take for the boys to come home to you?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if you realize I have a trust issue with the department. I don't trust them since they took the oldest that's here with me now. I don't trust them at all with anything they say or anything that they do. So I just tried to keep my distance from anything that they asked me to do due to the fact that I didn't want to incriminate myself like I did then.
Okay. How many other children have you been terminated on?
Just 3. They were adopted. Closed adoption. I don't know where they're at.
Were there any other children that were involved in CPS actions?
Yes. The oldest that's with me here, she's a twin. There was twins that were removed, but they were placed with family and were a part of my life. The other ones they're still in my custody, the rest of my kids.
When is the last time you've used meth?
September the 19th of 2018.
Is the meth use what led to the termination on the other kids?
No, to be honest with you, no, it was the beginning. The twins were just hearsay. I was young and I was dumb, and I basically signed them away because I didn't know what was going on. But the 3 that were adopted, yes, I was very bad on meth. I was in the streets. I was not I was not in my right state of mind. I was young.
What did you think it would take to get visits started up again with the boys?
She did advise me that I needed to take a drug screen, but every time I asked her if I could go take one, she said it wasn't my turn. So I just waited and waited and waited, and nothing was ever told. I mean, I was never told anything.
You've been to the St. Francis office, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And in fact, that's where some of the visits were taking place?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you weren't getting an answer on what you needed to start visits back with your boys, did you go to the St. Francis office to ask about it?
Yeah, I actually did go in person, and I got in contact with the administrator, the director, and I complained. Nothing was done. They said they would do something about it, but nothing was ever done. I filed numerous complaints in numerous areas with different agencies, and nothing has been done.
So you've texted Miss Kirksey on some phone number, correct?
Yes, I have gotten in contact with her, yes, ma'am.
Okay. What phone number were you using to communicate with her?
806, my original number.
And you were able to receive text from Miss Kirksey?
Yes, ma'am.
Were the only ones you weren't receiving the ones that asked you to drug screen?
I actually wasn't ever told anything about drug screens, and I've got phone records which prove that no message came in from her number, even after I lost my number.
You heard Miss Kirksey say that you shut the door in her face. Is that true?
Excuse me?
That she came to see you in person and you didn't talk with her?
No, because they had stopped my visits. I was pretty upset. She wanted to speak to me, and I asked her what was the reason. I said, there's nothing to speak about. There's no reason for you to stop my visits. And she still showed up even after I asked her not to come to my house. So having seen her face at my door, I was like, really? What are you doing here? What do you got to tell me? If you're not going to let me see my kids, I don't need to speak to you.
So she's not returning any of your calls or texts, but she's showing up in person at your house.
She showed up, yeah, with another lady to speak to me. And I was like, I have nothing to say to you.
Okay. Mr. Hammonds?
No other.
Sarah,
I'm sorry, Mr. Hammonds, say that again.
No other questions.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any further questions for Ms. Velasquez?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hammonds, do you have any other witnesses to call?
No, Judge.
And do you rest?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Barfield.
I have no witnesses to call, Your Honor. I would rest.
All right, and Mr. Michelson?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, and you rest, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Ms. Zavala, any witnesses to call today?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
And do you rest, other than a recommendation?
I do, Your Honor. It is my recommendation today.
Hang on just real quick, Ms. Zavala, before I take that. I'm looking for something. Maybe I missed that. But Mr. Albee, I know there was testimony about the paternity registry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you offer that? Because I know I haven't taken judicial notice of it.
No, I have not, Your Honor. I would ask.
Ooh, I don't know where we're getting this feedback. Okay.
I would ask that you take judicial notice that there's a paternity registry search done by the department. It should be on file at this time.
Okay, but it was not one of the exhibits, so that's why I was just double checking myself. All right, just a minute.
And Judge, before you take Ms. Zavala's recommendation, I would ask to call Ms. Kirksey as a rebuttal witness just to cover a couple of issues that were raised by Ms. Velasquez.
Okay. All right, I'll allow you to do that. And while you're doing that, I'm just looking for the paternity registry search real quick. So you may do that, and she's still under oath.
All right. Ms. Kirksey.
Yes, sir.
A couple of questions. First of all, has Ms. Velasquez provided you with her daughter's phone number at any time since you've had this case?
No, sir.
Have you attempted to contact her through her sister or through her mother?
No, sir, I haven't.
Was that something that you were provided as alternative ways to get hold of Miss Velasquez?
No, sir.
And in fact, there's been some issues with Miss Velasquez's mother in that there were some threats made back and forth between or by Miss Velasquez. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Also, Miss Velasquez has testified that you told her when she contacted you about taking a drug screen that you told her that she wasn't on the list. Did you ever tell her that she couldn't go take a drug screen?
I told her that she could not go and take her own drug screens. She was trying to provide results on screens that she would take or voluntarily take herself and then hand me the results.
And those wouldn't have counted towards the random drug screens that were required in the family plan of service?
Yes, sir.
But when you reached out to her and said, hey, you need to go do a drug screen, she would never comply with you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll pass with.
Okay, Mr. Hammonds, any questions?
No, Judge.
All right, and Mr. Barfield?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Michelson?
None, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Zavala?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right.
I'll close then, Your Honor.
Okay, then the court has located in the court's file on March 15th of 2023, the certificate of paternity registry searches done regarding each child, indicating that as to each child, there had been no notice of intent to claim paternity filed with the registry. So I'll take judicial notice of that. Unless there's objection.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection, Judge.
Ms. Zavala?
Yeah,
Now you can give your recommendation.
I've been able to visit with the boys regularly, both in person in the very beginning of the case in mom's home, and then in placement's home, and have been able to Zoom with them in their new placement. The improvements in the boys have been nothing short of dramatic. I do believe that it's in their best interest that the parental rights to all parents be terminated at this time, based on the evidence presented today.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bowles.
Judge, I know you're thinking. Can I ask a procedural question real quick?
Sure.
And this is just me. Has my client throughout these proceedings? I was just looking at my notes. Has he ever been adjudicated the father in this case in a previous hearing?
No, he is an alleged father.
Okay.
And I never have adjudicated him. He failed to appear for genetic testing on 2 different occasions. And there was no prior SAPSR that I don't believe the department, at least not that they ever located, and not that we found.
Okay, and that's my understanding. We had some talk about Attorney General stuff, and I believe it showed it was dismissed against him. So I just had to ask that. I wanted to make sure and ask that question because I'm just prior to the court's ruling. I'm just going to move that my client be dismissed out of this case as there's insufficient evidence to prove he's the father of the child. I believe the evidence is insufficient to prove that, and I'm going to ask that he be dismissed out of this case, Your Honor. Okay.
Well, I'm going to deny that on the basis that Mr. Rodarte had been in contact, was given the opportunity to genetic test at his request. At the beginning of the case, failed to appear on 2 occasions, so he was clearly aware of the case. He's had counsel in the case, and so if we had 0 contact with him, it might have been something to consider.
I appreciate you allowing me to make the motion and getting a ruling.
Sure, no problem. All right, at this time, then I do find I do find by clear and convincing evidence that it is in the best interest of the child to terminate the parental rights between that child and his father, Gabriel Aguilera, based on his voluntary affidavit of relinquishment of parental rights. I find by clear and convincing evidence that it is in the best interest of the child to terminate the parental rights, if any, between him and Alejandro Rodarte, based on his failure to register with the paternity registry, under Texas Family Code 161002 subsection B2. I also find by clear and convincing evidence it's in the best interest of the child to terminate the parental rights between the child and the unknown father on the same basis failure to register with the paternity registry under 161002 B2. And finally, I find by clear and convincing evidence it's in the best interest of both children to terminate the parental rights between the mother of the children, Maria Velasquez, and both of the children based on Texas Family Code section 161001 B1, the D, E, N, O, and P grounds, and the best interest under 161001 B2. At this time, I will name the department as permanent managing conservator of both children. I'll dismiss all court-appointed attorneys from the case after the appropriate de novo and appellate timeframes expire, with the exception of the children's attorney ad litem and guardian ad litem, Ms. Zavala, who will remain in that role after the final order is entered. I also will make a specific finding that the Department of Family and Protective Services has exercised all reasonable efforts to reunify the family, and that has failed. And counsel, as always, be mindful that your de novo timeframe does begin to run since I've rendered an open court. And if you're instructed to file an appeal, please do not do that until a final order is signed and adopted by the referring court. All right. I appreciate everybody. Ms. Velasquez, I wish you the best of luck. And we will be adjourned.